question concerns a notice from an inspector regarding Article 334.30 of the National Electrical Code, specifically related to the support of non-metallic sheath cable, commonly known as Romex, in an attic. The inspector is requiring that the Romex, which is laying on top of the trusses, be secured with a staple, tie wrap, or similar means every 4½ feet. The concern is whether this is strictly necessary, given that the Romex is already supported every 24 inches by the trusses. An argument for exemption can be made based on several factors. Firstly, adequate support is already provided by the trusses. The trusses are spaced every 24 inches, which inherently satisfies the requirement for wiring to be supported at intervals not exceeding 48 inches, as stated in NEC 334.30. The fact that the trusses provide continuous support at shorter intervals than the maximum allowed suggests that the wiring is adequately supported. Secondly, the horizontal orientation of the Romex cable is important. Because the Romex is laid on top of the trusses, the risk of sagging or significant movement is minimized. Even if the wire were to move 6 inches in either direction, it would still be adequately supported by the adjacent trusses. This further reinforces the argument that the existing support structure is sufficient. Thirdly, the Romex is secured at termination points. The Romex is properly stapled and pulled tight at the square-off points, which prevents excessive movement along its run. This additional support at termination points complements the support provided by the trusses, ensuring that the wire remains in place and is not subject to undue strain. Code interpretation is also relevant. NEC 334.30 bone states that where the cable is supported at intervals not exceeding 4½ feet by structural members which provide continuous support for the cable, additional support may not be required. In this specific case, the trusses act as structural members providing continuous support at intervals much shorter than 4½ feet, which implies that additional support may indeed be unnecessary. Despite the arguments for exemption, the inspector's request is technically within the code. However, a compromise can be proposed to address their concerns without resorting to unnecessary additional support. One option would be to secure the Romex to the trusses at every third interval approximately 12 feet apart. This would provide additional support without requiring staples or tie wraps every 4½ feet. Another option would be to use a low-profile cable clip or other non-invasive method to secure the wire, minimizing the visual impact and potential for damage to the cable. There are additional points to consider. Firstly, it is essential to check local building codes for any specific requirements regarding wiring support in attics, as local codes can sometimes be more stringent than the National Electrical Code. Secondly, it is important to communicate concerns to the inspector in a professional and respectful manner, explaining the reasoning and proposed solutions. This approach can often lead to a more collaborative resolution. Thirdly, if the inspector insists on strict adherence to the code, it may be necessary to comply, but it is advisable to document any objections and the rationale behind them for future reference. This documentation can be useful in case of future inspections or disputes. In summary, while the inspector's request is based on a literal interpretation of NEC 334.30, there are valid arguments for exemption based on the existing support provided by the trusses, the horizontal orientation of the Romex, and the secure terminations. Proposing a compromise solution and maintaining open communication with the inspector can help to resolve the issue in a way that satisfies both code requirements and practical considerations. The NEC 334.30 provides specific guidelines for securing and supporting non-metallic sheath cable, such as Romex. Understanding these requirements is crucial for ensuring safe and code-compliant electrical installations. NEC 334.30 generally mandates that non-metallic sheath cable be supported and secured by staples, cable ties, straps, hangers, or similar fittings designed and installed so as not to damage the cable at intervals not exceeding 4½ feet and within 12 inches from every cabinet, box, fitting, or other cable termination. This general rule ensures that the cable is properly supported to prevent strain and potential damage. NEC 334.30b outlines specific support requirements. NEC 334.30 bone addresses situations where cables are installed through bored holes in framing members. In such cases, where cables pass through holes bored in joists, rafters, or wood members, and were not subject to physical damage, the cables are considered supported and secured. This exception recognizes that the framing members themselves provide adequate support. NEC 334.30b2 covers installations where cables are fished between access points. Cables installed in concealed spaces and fished between access points do not require additional support or securing, provided that the cable is not subject to physical damage. This exception is based on the assumption that the cable is adequately protected within the concealed space. NEC 334.30b3 addresses situations where cables are supported at intervals not exceeding 4 1/2 feet by structural members providing continuous support. This section is particularly relevant to the situation described in the question. When cables are continuously supported by structural members at intervals of 4 1/2 feet or less, additional securing may not be required. The trusses in the attic, spaced at 24-inch intervals, could be considered such structural members. NEC 334.30c pertains to securing cables to running boards. Cables run along the sides of rafters, studs, or floor joists are required to be securely fastened. NEC 334.30d specifies the support requirements for cables installed in manufactured wiring systems. Cables used in manufactured wiring systems must be supported in accordance with the system's listing requirement. The argument for exemption from the 4 1/2 foot support requirement in the attic is based on the interpretation of NEC 334.30 bone and NEC 334.30b3. The trusses, spaced at 24-inch intervals, provide continuous support to the Romex cable. This support is more frequent in the maximum 4 1/2 foot interval specified in NEC 334.30a. Since the trusses are structural members providing continuous support, it can be argued that additional securing is unnecessary. However, the inspector may be interpreting the code more strictly, requiring positive attachment of the cable to the trusses at 4 1/2 foot intervals, regardless of the continuous support provided by the trusses. A compromise solution could involve securing the cable to the trusses at wider intervals, such as every 8 or 12 feet, to provide additional support without excessive stapling or tie wrapping. This approach would address the inspector's concerns while minimizing the impact on the existing installation. It is also important to consider the overall installation quality. If the Romex cable is properly stapled and pulled tight at the square-off points, as mentioned in the question, this provides additional security and reduces the likelihood of sagging or movement. The combination of the truss support and secure terminations may be sufficient to ensure a safe and code-compliant installation. When discussing the issue with the inspector, it is helpful to have a clear understanding of the code requirements and to present a well-reasoned argument for the exemption. Providing photographs or diagrams of the installation can also help to illustrate the existing support and security measures. It is always best to approach the discussion in a professional and respectful manner, seeking to find a mutually agreeable solution that meets the intent of the code while minimizing unnecessary work. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years, so it is important to ensure that the most current version of the code is being used for reference. State and local amendments to the NEC may also apply, so it is essential to check with the local building department for any specific requirements. Keeping up to date with the latest code changes and interpretations is crucial for electrical professionals to ensure compliance and safety. Several factors must be considered when determining the appropriate support methods for Romex cable. The type of building construction, the accessibility of the wiring, and the potential for physical damage all play a role in selecting the right support materials and method. In attics, where the wiring is typically exposed and subject to temperature extremes, it is particularly important to use support materials that are durable and resistant to degradation. Staples, cable ties, and straps should be made of materials that are compatible with the Romex cable and that will not corrode or deteriorate over time. The installation of the support material should also be done carefully to avoid damaging the cable. Staples should be driven in straight and not too tightly to prevent pinching or cutting the cable insulation. Cable ties should be snug but not overly tight to allow for some movement of the cable without causing strain. Straps should be properly sized for the cable and securely fastened to the building structure. In addition to the support requirements, it is also important to consider the routing of the Romex cable. Cables should be run in a neat and orderly manner, following the contours of the building structure and avoiding sharp bends or kinks. Cables should also be protected from physical damage, such as from nails, screws, or other sharp objects. When running cables through holes in framing members, the hole should be drilled in the center of the member and should be large enough to allow the cable to pass freely without rubbing or chafing. In some cases, it may be necessary to install nail plates to protect the cables from being penetrated by fasteners. Proper support and routing of Romex cable are essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of the electrical system. By following the NEC requirements and using good workmanship practices, electrical professionals can help to prevent electrical hazards and ensure that the wiring system will perform properly for years to come. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards that covers a wide range of electrical installations. While it is not possible to cover all aspects of the code in this discussion, it is important to be aware of the key requirements and to consult the code book for specific guidance. The NEC is available for purchase from the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA) and can also be accessed online through various subscription services. Electrical professionals should also consider attending continuing education courses and seminars to stay up to date with the latest code changes and best practices. Investing in ongoing training and education is essential for maintaining competency and providing safe and reliable electrical services. It is also important to remember that the NEC is a minimum standard. In some cases, it may be necessary to exceed the code requirements to address specific site conditions or to provide a higher level of safety and reliability. For example, in areas that are subject to frequent power outages, it may be desirable to install a backup generator or uninterruptible power supply UPS system. In areas that are prone to lightning strikes, it may be necessary to install a lightning protection system. By carefully considering the specific needs of the installation and using sound engineering judgment, electrical professionals can ensure that the electrical system is safe, reliable, and meets the customer's expectations. The arguments for exemption from the 4 1/2 foot support rule hinge on the definition of continuous support and the interpretation of the inspector. Continuous support implies that the cable rests on a structural member along its entire length, or at least at very short intervals. The 24-inch spacing of the trusses arguably provides continuous support because the cable is never unsupported for more than 24 inches. However, the inspector may argue that continuous support requires the cable to be positively attached to the structural member at regular intervals. This is where the compromise comes in. By offering to secure the cable at wider intervals, such as 8 or 12 feet, demonstrates a willingness to comply with the intent of the code, which is to prevent the cable from sagging or becoming damaged. This also shows respect for the inspector's concerns and can help to build a positive working relationship. It is important to document all discussions with the inspector and to keep a record of any agreements that are made. This documentation can be helpful in case of future inspections or if there are any disputes about the installation. It is also a good idea to take photographs of the installation before and after any modifications are made. These photographs can serve as evidence of the existing support and security measures and can help to demonstrate compliance with the code. When communicating with the inspector, it is important to be clear, concise, and professional. Avoid using technical jargon or making assumptions about the inspector's knowledge. Explain the reasoning behind the proposed solution and be prepared to answer any questions that the inspector may have. It is also important to be respectful of the inspector's authority and to comply with their instructions, even if you disagree with them. However, it is also important to stand up for your rights and to challenge any interpretations of the code that you believe are unreasonable or unfair. If you are unable to reach an agreement with the inspector, you may have the option to appeal their decision to a higher authority. The appeals process varies depending on the jurisdiction, but it typically involves submitting a written appeal to the building department or other regulatory agency. The appeal will be reviewed by a panel of experts who will make a determination based on the facts of the case and the applicable code requirements. In some cases, it may be necessary to hire an attorney or other professional to represent you in the appeals process. The cost of an appeal can be significant, so it is important to weigh the potential benefits against the cost before deciding to pursue this option. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the electrical installation is safe, code compliant, and meets the customer's needs. By working collaboratively with the inspector and being willing to compromise, it is often possible to achieve this goal without resorting to costly or time-consuming disputes.